Hello again from Metro Manila, the Philippines, Southeastern Asia. I'm going to read a summary with my own comments of President Trump's state of emergency or state of national emergency speech, which he made in the White House's Rose Garden in Washington, D.C. yesterday on February the 15th, 2019. It shows that Trump doesn't seem to care too much about checking those claims' accuracy that he makes. A more critical or cynical observer of Trump might even say that he uses a tactic similar to those of, for example, Hitler and some other dictators who keep repeating statements that they know to be big lies, so that eventually at least most or many of the listeners start to believe in them as facts. I'm indebted to certain journalists of USA Today newspaper for this video, and as I always do, I declare at the outset of this news video that I do not intend to infringe on any copyrights with it. I don't seek to attack President Trump with this video, but I just want to point out, and I'm certainly not alone in doing that, how inaccurate and misleading statements he makes. And those who want a truth-telling president should vote for someone else in November 2010. It would be wonderful if such an honest and especially truly born-again Christian candidate emerged either inside one of the two main political parties or outside them. But let's see. So go to the article. It was written by Eugene Keeley, Robert Farley, and D'Angelo Gore. Factcheck.org, published on February the 15th, 2019. We briefly cover some of the statements the president made in his February the 15th Rose Garden remarks, nearly all of which we have debunked numerous times before. Trump said, "We have a real problem. We have catch and release. You catch a criminal and you have to release him." The facts: that's not accurate. The US does not have to release criminals. In fact, it is required to detain certain criminals. Those attempting to enter the US without valid entry documents or by fraud or misrepresentation must be detained pending an expedited removal proceeding, as explained in a report published in 2018 by the Congressional Research Service. And they are subject to deportation even if they don't have a criminal record. Some people obviously apprehended or arrested trying to cross the border illegally or even legally can seek asylum in the US, but that process can stretch for years in some cases. The immigrant must first get a US official to determine that he or she faces a credible fear of prosecution or torture if forced to return to his or her country of origin or native land or home country, according to the US Citizenship and Immigration Services. If an asylum officer does not find there is a credible fear, the immigrant can request a review by an immigration judge. If the judge agrees with the officer, the immigrant can then be removed from the US. Even for those who have passed this initial credible fear threshold, they still must have a formal asylum hearing, which can take years. But authorities are under no obligation to release those awaiting a long-term removal proceeding. In fact, ICE is required to hold certain criminals, including those who have been convicted of an aggravated felony, those who have multiple criminal convictions, and those who have served more than a year in jail for a criminal offense. And this has been outlined in the Immigration Nationality Act, Section 236C. Those arrested near the border who have committed a less serious offense and who are not considered to pose a risk to public safety can be released pending the long-term proceeding. But authorities are not obligated to do so, especially if they are considered a risk to public safety, according to Sarah Pierce, a policy analyst at the Migration Policy Institute. She said, there is no obligation to release anyone. Then chain migration. Trump said, or rather claimed, you have chain migration, where a bad person comes in, brings 22 or 23 or 35 of his family members because he has his mother, his grandmother, his sister, his cousin, his uncle, they are all in. You know what happened on the West Side Highway. That young wise guy drove over and killed 8 people and horribly injured. Nobody talks about that, horribly, like loss of legs and arms. He had many people brought in because he was in the United States. It's called chain migration. Trump, again, whether willfully or because of ignorance or because of impatience or in order to get headlines that would, of course, resonate with his base of mostly white native-born Americans. So he once again distorted and misrepresented the facts. So he was referring to Mr. Saifullah Saipov, a citizen of Uzbekistan, which is a former Soviet republic, now an independent republic in Central Asia. He has been charged for a terrorist attack that he committed in 2017 in New York City, killing 8 people and injuring 11 others. So this was accurate in Trump's statement, but the rest was inaccurate. Trump has repeatedly and erroneously or falsely claimed that Saipov used chain migration to bring 22 people with him into the United States. However, according to the fact-checking journalists, there is no evidence that Mr. Saipov brought even one relative to the United States. Saipov did come to the United States in 2010 through the Diversity Immigrant Visa Program, according to the Homeland Security Department. As a green card holder, Mr. Saipov could not have sponsored anyone other than a spouse or children, and he married in the United States in 2013. So he simply could not have, at least legally, brought in the relatives cited by Trump. Mr. Saipov's father and mother, Mr. Habibullah Saipov and Mrs. Mukaddas Saipova, were both living in Uzbekistan when the attack took place, as reported by the Daily Mail and the Wall Street Journal. Then, diversity immigration visa. Trump said, and then you have the lottery. It's a horror show because when countries put people into the lottery, they are not putting you in. They are putting some very bad people in the lottery. It's common sense. If I run a country and if I have a lottery system of people going to the United States, I'm not going to put in my stars. I'm going to put in people I don't want. The lottery system's a disaster. I'm stuck with it. The facts. The president has repeatedly misrepresented how the diversity immigrant visa program works. Under that program, the US State Department randomly selects up to 50,000 qualified applicants from countries with low rates of immigration to the United States. So President Trump, again, is wrong by claiming that countries put in people for visas. The individuals themselves apply. And mind you, 2 of his 3 wives are naturalized citizens. The first one, Ivana Trump, the former Ivana Trump, came from the former Czechoslovakia. The second one, I'm sorry, yeah, including, yeah, who is now his third wife, Melania Knavs, or Knaus, came to the United States from Slovenia, a country in southeastern Europe, via Germany and maybe some other European countries. So if he was consistent in claiming, he might say that his first and third wives might be suspected of being bad people because they were put into the lottery. But then again, of course, this is an inaccurate claim in the sense that Ivana Trump, whatever her last name is, original last name, maiden name, came during the Cold War when Czechoslovakia was a communist country, while then Melania, the current Melania Trump, came after the Cold War had ended. But anyway, claiming that many or mostly bad people are put into the lottery simply is not true, because the US State Department goes the list of potential applicants for that immigration visa and tries to make sure that they're all qualified for it. If they were as bad people as President Trump claims, then why would they be? I don't honestly believe they would even be in the list. At least most of them would not be on that list. And those selected in the lottery, as Trump calls it, must pass an extensive background check before they are given green cards or legal permanent resident status. There are over a dozen grounds of inadmissibility, including health issues, criminal activity, national security concerns, and the likelihood of becoming a public charge, meaning a person who is primarily dependent on the government for subsistence. And that is all done in an attempt to prevent very bad people, as Trump called them, from getting into the country. Southwest border apprehensions. Trump said, once again lying, so far we have far more people trying to get into our country today than probably we've ever had before. The facts: the number of people who try to enter the US illegally each year, of course, is unknown, but federal authorities use the number of apprehensions or arrests to gauge or estimate changes in illegal immigration. And besides Trump, the US history. What about the second half of the 19th century, when many millions of people, possibly even tens of millions of people, immigrated to the United States, mostly from Europe? And then what about the time, the first years of the 20th